Hey guys, thanks for joining once again. Feeling stuck, feeling like you're not really going anywhere, floating in this kind of space of nothingness, a lukewarm puddle of water, a nice, comfortable comfort zone blanket. Everything's kind of meh. There's not really spice there. There's not really something that is turning you on. It's all kind of just bland and neutral and dull. I've found myself in this for quite some time now. And it's okay when it is there. It's also totally normal. Sometimes you go through a time where everything seems to be dull and there is very little life force. There's not really a very clear connection to what we want to achieve or where we want to go to, or there's nothing that's kind of like tickling our senses. And it can feel very demoralizing, can feel very empty, saddening, isolating, even lonely. And again, it's totally normal that these feelings arise. Now, I've been thinking about this state for a while now, and a few days ago I had a conversation with one of my dear friends, Dayo Klingspoor. I highly recommend you check out his YouTube channel. He's a fantastic filmmaker, and he currently sold all of his things. He cut his rental contract and he just bought a Land Rover car, and he just lives from his car now, and he's trying to figure it out. What an amazing decision to embark on this adventure and try to figure things out along the way, not knowing where to go and how to solve things, but knowing that you will find your way and that you will discover how to navigate any challenging situation that you might encounter. And during this conversation, I was sharing that I felt kind of safe, comfortable, but nothing was there. It's just a very one note, boring, one sound. There's no movement there. And we ended up talking about this concept of stories and what makes a story interesting, and how the journey of the character is going through many different stages in order to make the story captivating, right? If there is no contrast happening, then the story is boring. You don't want to read a story that's just on the same all the time. No, there is phases where there is not really too much happening, then there is phases where a lot of things are happening, then there is phases where there's less intensity, more intensity. And another very important factor or part of a story is the story arc and the stakes. What are the stakes? What does the character have to lose in order to gain the treasure? What are the stakes that this personage is putting on the table, right? And when you are in a safe environment, nothing's really necessary. You can just, in my case, I can be in my parents' house and I don't really need to do anything. I can just be here, and there is no real stake. There is no really incentive for me to do much. And that creates a boring story. And then we reflected on, as you are nearing the end of your life and you look back on all the things you've done, then the things that involved risk, the things that involved high stakes, the things that involved challenging yourself in many ways. Maybe you're afraid to do something different, maybe you're just afraid to leave the house, maybe you're afraid to travel to another country, maybe you're afraid to take some kind of job or to put your creative work out there in the world. Whatever it may be, there is some risk there. There's the risk to end up not succeeding. There's a risk to end up being rejected. There is a risk, whatever, okay? But it's these risks and taking those risks that makes the story interesting. And so perhaps for you, if you find yourself in this situation where everything is kind of safe and comfortable and okay, perhaps you can ask yourself, what do I want to put my character through in order to make it an interesting story? Alex Hermosi, very famous YouTuber and online entrepreneur, once said this quote, what challenges are you willing to put your character through in order to make it into an interesting storyline? Something along these lines. And it's interesting to think about that. What challenges are you willing to put your own character through in order to create an interesting life for yourself? And are you willing to live that life without anyone watching? What would it mean if nobody would be watching? This is also, I think, an interesting point to consider. Are you doing things in order to be watched, in order to gain something from other people seeing you do things, or would you do it for yourself? And then also, maybe it's not a bad thing to do stuff in order to be seen. For example, I talked about this in my previous video, that wanting to be seen is something that I yearn for. And so if you pursue perhaps performative arts or something like that, like dance or theater or even painting or whatever it may be, that's not really performative art, but dance, theater, acting, whatever, it is in order to be seen by other people. It is a performance for others. So you can pursue that. Maybe that is the risk you want to take, the fear you have to be seen in that big crowd of people, and then knowing that you can actually perform and give people a beautiful experience, for example. Maybe this is the risk you want to be taking. I don't know what it might be for you. It definitely made me think about what it would mean for myself. And so it got me a little bit turned on somehow, these thoughts, this conversation I had with my friend. It made me think about, okay, do I want to have this boring storyline for myself, or do I want to create something that's a bit more interesting? And it kind of like snapped me awake a little bit. And I hope that maybe by sharing this with you, if you find yourself in this dull state, that it can make you think, how can I make my story a bit more interesting? What risk can I take that would kind of light a little fire under my ass, and that would allow me to be engaged with something? And so a dream that I have, and that I have for a long time, is some kind of road trip with a van. But I don't have a driver's license. So I will never be able to make that dream into a reality until I take the step to get a driver's license. And I have so much resistance against that for some reason. I'm like, I need to study for that, and I need to practice, and it's so far away. I wish I could just wake up and take my driver's license out of the box of breakfast cereal and just have the driver's license, like a cheat code in the game, and just get the driver's license just like that. I don't want to work for it because there is a part of me that's so lazy. And then I'm thinking to myself, okay, you can decide to stay lazy and to never get your driver's license. It's fine, you can do that. But does that make for an interesting story? Because if you get the driver's license, then it allows you to embark on some kind of adventure that you've always dreamed of doing. And then at least when you're about to die, you can think back, thank God, I'm so happy that I decided to get my driver's license. Finally, finally I just did it. Because sometimes you just need to get up and do it. And it's so simple, and it sounds so stupid almost, because sometimes I find myself in a state where I'm like, I just can't do it. I just can't. I don't have energy. There's nothing. Fine, that's okay. Embrace that. I allow that space to be there. I fully embody it. And I'm just laying in my bed for days and days and days. And I'm just sleeping. And I'm like, no energy. Fine. You still deserve to be loved. You still deserve to be appreciated and cared for and all of the things. You still are worthy of that, even when you are completely exhausted and in need of sleep and rest. And even if you're lazy, even if you're being lazy, you are worthy of love. It's simply a matter of then understanding, hold on a second, what are my actual values? What are your values? What do you want to live what is the way you want to live your life? Do you want to live a lazy life? If you want that, perfect, live a lazy life. But if there's some part in you that is kind of longing for something more, then perhaps you can ask yourself how to change your behavior so that your actions align better with your values. Because when there is a conflict between your values and your actions, it causes a very discomfortable inner state. There is this conflict inside. There is this discrepancy between what are our ideals and the way we're actually behaving. And that, at least in my case, makes me feel not good about myself. And of course, there is something to be said about cultivating compassion, even in that scenario. But at least for myself, being aware of my values and aligning my actions with those values is almost a guaranteed way to connect with my life force, to connect with the life energy. Then it starts to flow. Then I can feel, okay, I have energy to do stuff because I'm aligning myself with what is truly important to me. And sometimes that might mean to rest and to really embody that tiredness for a while. That's okay. It's a little dip then maybe. Then you turn things down. And then after you've fully let yourself in that space, then naturally something will come, something will happen. You have a conversation because it has been kind of like, how do you say, we say pruttelen in my language. Pruttelen, it's kind of like the pot with the stew is kind of, it's cooking. And it's preparing until it's ready until you're ready to open the pot, until the seed is kind of ready to sprout. But it is not necessarily something that you have immediate conscious control over. Sometimes it needs some space to create some momentum, maybe even some negative momentum where you feel like a drag, and then all of a sudden you're like, I'm pretty tired of this. I need change. And then the right catalyst can kind of trigger that. And I'm not saying that I feel completely out of that kind of more tired state. Maybe tomorrow I feel again super tired, but at least there is some spark, some thinking about, okay, how can I make my story a bit more interesting? What is a dream that I have, an adventure that I want to experience, and how can I make that happen? And what is the smallest step that you can take if you have a dream? Maybe you can take a moment to reflect on what that dream would look like for you, and then take the smallest step towards that dream. It can be anything. It can be write an email to some person, or it can be create some small thing, or go outside for a 2-minute walk. If you want to run 10 kilometers, it starts with one step. These small things. What is the dream that you have? And then break it down to the smallest possible step. And in my case, it was open my computer and start studying for the theoretical exam for my driver's license. And I'm doing that now a little bit each day, and it kind of, wow, yes, I have agency. I can do something that will bring me closer to some adventure experience that I want to have. And that is very empowering. That's really empowering, because laying in bed all day feeling tired, that is in a way disempowering, unless it's necessary for you to go through it. And sometimes it is, and that's okay. So I hope to inspire perhaps some reflections for yourself as well. I felt like sharing this because this is exactly what I'm going through in this moment right now. I feel some more air to breathe. I feel a little bit more excited to wake up and to do something, because before that I'm like, what's the point? There is no point. Like, it's so dull and lifeless. So yeah, I hope to inspire maybe just a little spark inside for you to explore how to make your life an interesting storyline. Thanks for watching.